All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we're going to begin with our state expedited accusation calendar. Let me see, courtroom 2 is available, and any other locations? Okay. As I was saying, this is the state expedited accusation calendar with the Fulton County State Court. These are a list of misdemeanor cases in which individuals who were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail, their cases have now been formally accused. Hence, this will be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer. If you hear your name called, we will be addressing your cases on a one-on-one basis, where I will inform you of what is your case number, what are the charges brought against you, to appoint counsel for you if required, as well as to set a bond. Some of you may receive what we call a signature bond, in which you would not have to pay for the bond today, but you would have to comply with certain conditions in order to maintain the signature bond status. Otherwise, others may receive what we call a cash bond or a surety bond, in which you would have to pay for the bond either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. In either event, when I'm addressing your case, please remember your rights. The first one is the right to remain silent. Anything that you choose to say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. So if you have any comments to make about your case, please speak with your attorney instead of stating it in open court. This is a virtual proceeding, but it's also being recorded and live streamed. So do remember your right to remain silent. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. So, Ward and Brennan, okay, so just let me know when you need a breakout. We will try to keep the breakout cases towards the end of the calendar. And I'm going to go with how the deputy is calling out the cases in courtroom 2. For those of you who are either witnesses or victims or family members who are here to support, please keep your video off and your Zoom panel muted until the defendant whom you're interested in addressing appears on screen. So courtroom 2, who do we have first?
We have position number 13, Mr. Taylor.
Okay. And I know Miss, okay. And ladies and gentlemen, if the case is being reset to another court date, the reset date is going to be November 21st at 9 a.m. And it's also going to be a virtual proceeding. So anyone who wants to attend the reset date, they would need to get a Zoom link. All right, position 13. This is State versus Torrance Taylor, case number 24CR 0075488. Mr. Taylor has got a misdemeanor charge of possession of marijuana less than 1 ounce from November 7th, 2024. Mr. Taylor, your attorney is going to be Mr. Finley. You are going to receive a UJR, and your next court date will be sent to your current address. Do we have it?
Your Honor, the state would like to be heard.
No, we're going to leave it at this point. Okay.
I'd like to object on the record. What would be the purpose of us being there and preparing for court today?
Understood. Do we have Mr. Taylor's current address?
Good afternoon, Judge. Good seeing you again. And yes,
All right.
Yes, I do. I do have his address, Judge Law.
Okay. Mr. Taylor, this is an open active criminal case against you for misdemeanor possession of marijuana less than 1 ounce. You've received a unsecured judicial release. Oh, by the way, does he have an FTA in the last 5 years?
He's got an open case in felony court, Your Honor.
Oh, that's
good. In that case, we are at a court on. He got a UJR on that. So
okay, so we're gonna keep it at that. Thank you. Next case, please.
Thank you, Judge. And may I be excused, Your Honor?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Finley.
Yes, ma'am.
Position number 3.
This is State versus Rayan Copus, 24CR 0075555G. Mr. Copus has got, Miss Copus has got a charge of simple assault, domestic violence, and terroristic threats and acts. This is from an October 30th, 2024 incident. Ms. Copus, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Keith Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Second arrest, 2019 Simple Battery DV.
Thank you. Ms. Alden, yes. What's the state's recommendation?
The simple battery domestic violence from Gwinnett County, this defendant received pretrial intervention on. The warrant specifically states she put her hands around someone's neck and choked them. That is her prior arrest. This is an incident from October the 30th. She and her mother are staying at grandma's house. The victim in this case, her name is Martha Baxter. She's 82 years old. She allowed her daughter and this young woman in front of you, granddaughter, to come stay with her recently when they lost their housing, and has called the police and complained to family members and tried to evict these young ladies, but has not been successful at this point. She needs some advocacy. The police investigated a report on October the 30th where the victim reported that she overheard the young woman in front of you speaking with her mother about how she was going to kill her grandmother. I'm going to snap and I'm going to murder her. She also has threatened her by reportedly saying she was going to burn the house down and refuses to leave the location. The victim has reported that she wants no contact. She is afraid. She has reached out to police, and we are currently trying to advocate for her now. Your Honor, based on the fact that this young woman just completed pretrial intervention for serious violence, we're asking for a $2,000 surety, no contact with Martha Baxter, to stay away from the location. Let me pull up that address to make sure it's correct. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Your Honor, this is Mr. McLean's case.
All right, I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Michael McLean is Ms. Copus's counsel. All right. And Mr. McLean, do you want to chime in?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is indeed 24 years old. She has 11th grade education, and she'll be working on her GED upcoming in the future. The record of arrest is what and convictions or the intervention thing rather is what the state had said it was. She has worked at a gas station for 2 months. She worked at a Wendy's for 2 months, and she worked at another gas station for 1.5 years before that. So even in the last several years, she has been employed. Your Honor, given the charges, we read the police report, of course, and understand. It looks like she has the ability to come to court on time. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond, and if that's not possible, then a low surety bond. Thank you.
And the address, Your Honor, is 110 Honey Tree Lane. That's in Roswell. Mrs. Baxter is on the line. The young lady in front of you, Rayanne, is granddaughter. Her mother and the daughter of the victim is Ashley. Same last name, Copus, C-O-P-U-S. If you would sound for Miss Martha, that would be helpful.
All right. Ms. Baxter, my name is Judge Law, and if you want to address the court, you would need to unmute your panel, please. Miss Martha Baxter, can you hear me? I'm Judge Law. Can you see and hear me?
Damn,
Yeah, all right.
I can.
Did you want to say something?
Yes,
All right, please raise your right hand. I need to place you under oath. All right, do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge? Ms. Baxter?
yes, it will be.
All right. What would you like to tell us?
Tell them those charges were dropped. That the charges were dropped way back from what my daughter says, what the mother says in Gwinnett County.
All right, Miss Baxter, I
Yes.
appreciate you wanting to tell us something, but we can clearly hear someone coaching you on the side.
All I'm saying is the charges in Gwinnett County were dropped. So her mother said.
Well, yes, they were dropped because she went through pretrial intervention. My question
No, the
to
lady
you,
didn't.
oh my goodness. Does somebody else want to talk? I can hear you on the side. Come on.
She's coming around. This is her mother.
All right. Miss
She's
Baxter,
coming.
Miss Baxter, you are the alleged victim in this case. would you like to tell me or the court, how do you feel about Rayanne coming back home?
I would prefer that she not come back.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that honest opinion. All right. Now, did Miss Copas, Mama Copas, want to say something?
She's coming around.
All right.
Hi, Your Honor. As I was told
Please
that
raise
when
your right
she
hand.
had
ma'am.
that,
Please raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you are Nicole Copas?
Brianne's mom.
Right. Your name is Nicole Copas?
No, Ashley Copas.
Ashley Copas, excuse me. And Miss Copas, I'm aware of her prior arrest in Gwinnett County and how that case was resolved. I'm aware of that.
Right. Well, what I was told was it got dropped because the lady never showed up in court.
All right.
So they dropped all the charges.
All right. You have a different interpretation of what happened, which is perfectly fine. How do you, now this is Martha Baxter's home, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Mrs. Baxter does not want Rayanne Copas back home at Honey Tree Lane. So would she have somewhere else to live?
We're looking for a place, yes.
All right. You would need to find a place right away because Rayanne is not allowed back in the property.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank
She
you.
was given.
Anything else, Mrs. Baxter?
I was just going to say I gave them a sum of money to help them.
Okay, that's very generous of you.
So
Unfortunately,
they can go someplace.
all right. I hope they do find someplace. Thank you, Mrs. Baxter. We
Okay.
can go ahead and mute the Martha Baxter Zoom panel, please. Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes,
may
sir.
I- the last 2 cents I have are that I did tell my client that it is entirely possible that she will be required to leave, and it may, if that means going to a shelter, so be it. She's fine with that.
Okay, good. Now, Rayanne Copas, it's very unfortunate that this incident has happened. I don't know what you had learned from the prior case, but in the current one, on the simple assault family violence is 1,000 and the terroristic threats is 1,000. Your total bond is going to be a $2,000 surety bond. You will need to pay for your bond. You're to have no further contact with Martha Baxter, which means that you have to stay 200 yards away from your grandmother, and you cannot have any contact with her in any way, form, or manner, including phone, computer, social media, or even through a third party, which means that mom can't speak to grandma on your behalf. You are to stay away from 110 Honey Tree Lane in Roswell, Georgia. You're allowed a one-time visit with a police officer if you want to retrieve your belongings. Your next court date is going to be November 21st at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Good. Position number 4.
All right, Mrs. Baxter, you're free to leave the Zoom if you'd like. This is Daryl, middle initial D Dukes, case number 24CR7546C. Mr. Dukes has got 6 misdemeanor charges stemming from a November 7th, 2024 incident with the 6th offense from November 8th. And the charges are as follows. They are 2 counts of battery family violence, 2 counts of simple assault, 1 count of battery, and 1 count of simple battery. Mr. Dukes, you have been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Miss Maureen McLeod. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Third, last was 94 DUI conviction.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Daciano, what's the recommendation?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. The last count that you said is on the 8th. That's a typo. I'll fix that. All of these incidents happened on the 7th. The incident location is 2845 Woodburn Court. The first victim in this case is Antoinette Dukes. She's the defendant's daughter who lives with the defendant. There was an argument about her moving out, and the victim invited her friends over to help get her belongings out. That is the second and third victims in this case. That is Chanel Henson and Alnisa Rahim. The friends, Miss Henson and Miss Rahim, told the police that the defendant was upset with his daughter because they were over there and because there's not a good living situation at this point and he wants her out. They reported the defendant attacked his daughter and grabbed her by the neck and began strangling her and repeatedly striking her. The friends intervened and tried to get the defendant off of the first victim, and the defendant attacked them as well. The daughter, Miss Dukes, was bleeding from her ear. She had scratches and a large knot on her forehead. Her earring actually got knocked into her ear canal and pierced her neck, which we believe is where the bleeding was coming from. She also had a large knot on her forehead. Miss Rahim had a lock of her hair pulled out. Miss Henson did not have any visible injuries, but reported the defendant struck her multiple times with an open and closed fist. And after the victims were assaulted, the defendant then went and retrieved a firearm, which scared the friends that were over there. And that's the basis for the 2 counts of the simple assault. We have been in touch with Miss Dukes today. She confirmed she's the daughter. She states they live together. She says there was an argument over her leaving. She called her friends over to help. The defendant began yelling at them, demanding they leave. They were arguing back and forth. He charged at her. Friends intervened and were assaulted. He did pull out a gun. She did say that he did not point it at them. She is still in the process of moving out and at this point has stated she wants no contact with him and would like for him to stay away until she can move out, which she says will be done by at least tomorrow. And she just wants to be able to peacefully collect her belongings and exit the residence. And she is on Zoom, Your Honor. We have not been in touch with Miss Henson today. We have been in touch with Miss Rahim. She is 16. She is the sister of Chantella Henson. She did confirm the events in the warrant. She states that her sister, she was actually injured a little more than the warrant said. The warrant said her hair was pulled out. She said she also had a bloody nose. She did confirm that he did pull the firearm out. She is scared. She wants no contact. Judge, we're requesting a 2,000 surety on each of the batteries, 1,000 on the simple assaults, no contact with any of the victims, stay away from the incident location to the extent the daughter can move out in a couple days and then he can return. Family violence intervention program, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And if Your Honor can sound for the victims, I know Miss Rahim and Miss Dukes are on the line.
All right. Miss Dukes, Miss Rahim, and the third one was Chanel?
Chantella.
Chantella. Okay.
Chantella Henson.
Henson. If you all want to contribute to this proceeding, you need to unmute and start your video. Alnisa Rahim, and it was Ashley Dukes, is that correct?
Antoinetta Dukes, Your Honor.
Antoinette.
Hello.
All right, Miss Dukes, could you pick
Yeah.
up your phone and bring it in front of you?
Well, I'm kind of driving. I'm on the way to get my kids.
Are you driving?
Yes, I am. I'm on the way to get my kids.
All right, then we're going to remove you from Zoom. You can leave Zoom, please. Please remove A Dukes from, thank you. All right, Miss Rahim. All right, okay. You're not driving, that's good. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
All right, what would you like to tell us?
As far as him getting out, I feel like that should not be the case, considering that he has put his hand on a minor and he also attempted to pull out a gun on 3 women. And as my sister is telling him that I'm a minor, he continues to hit me harder. And most of the damage was done to me. He pulled out 3 of my braids. I have a knot on my head and my nose and my hand was bleeding. Because he slammed me to the wall. He dragged me by my hair. He also slammed me to the ground and then he tried to pull out fire.
Understood. Thank you, Miss Rahim. All right, Miss McLeod, anything to add?
A lot.
Okay, go ahead.
Your Honor, my client is 57 years old. As pre-trial has said, he has no criminal history except, I believe this is a DUI sometime in the 90s. My client has a college degree and he owns his own business, and this happened to be his home. he tells me that he's been very proactive with his grandchildren. He goes, he picks them up from school and keeps them and so on for his daughter, who incidentally doesn't really live with him. He sometimes keeps the children to help her out. He said one of the children was ill and he called to inform his daughter that the child was ill and of course needed to go to the doctor and that she should come and get the child. She became very confrontational with him, hung up the phone on him. Then she came over to the house. He was upstairs. She stormed upstairs, started an argument with him, and she attacked him. While he was trying to get her off of him, she had 2 or 3 friends with her who also jumped in and started attacking him. This man was in his own house. He had to defend himself against these 3 or 4 women who decided to attack him. Of course, he decided if he had a pistol there, he probably should get it because they were attacking him. For them to turn around and say now that they were the victims when they attacked this man in his own home is somewhat unconscionable. I would ask the court to give my client a signature bond so that he can get out of jail. He is clearly not some kind of criminal. He's 57 years old. And obviously this is his daughter. It doesn't make sense that all of a sudden this man just goes wild and attacks these women. That makes no logical sense. What he's saying makes much more sense that his daughter first attacked him and that her friends jumped in and also started to attack him. I believe that.
I'm sorry, am I able to interrupt?
Please don't speak over me, Ms. Rahim.
Anything else, Ms. McLeod?
Just wanted to say, Your Honor, it will all come out at trial. But this is a made-up story by the 3 of them because obviously she was angry with Dad because she doesn't want to take her own responsibilities for her own children. Nothing further.
Right. Thank
Your
you.
Honor, just to respond very briefly, we did contact the arresting officer because the warrants, to be fair, are a little unclear of what happened here to get a better idea of what exactly went down. The officer spoke to everyone on scene and determined that the defendant was the primary aggressor. Additionally, Your Honor, will proffer that there are jail calls between the daughter and Dad, where Dad is asking her to tell the judge this was just one big misunderstanding. And she says, and I quote, "I will, but only to save your ass." So there is clearly more to the story here than Ms. McLeod's client has told her, and we'd ask for a surety bond. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Rahim, what would you like to say?
I would like to say that the entire story that was just told was made up. When we arrived to the house, we were
Which one? Which one? Your story?
Where she says that we went upstairs and she attacked her father. That did not happen.
That is not going to come in right now. Since you've already indicated that you don't want any contact with Mr. Duke.
I never said that.
You want contact with Mr. Dukes?
Well, I just wanted to tell you that that's not what happened. He was not at the
Miss Rahim, Miss Rahim, there is a legal reason why I'm stopping you at this point, and I'm not going to explain it to you. All I want to know is whether you want contact with Daryl Dukes or you don't want contact with Daryl Dukes.
Nothing. Okay,
please mute your screen. Thank you. Mr. Dukes, your bond is going to be set as follows. On count 1, that's going to be a $2,000 surety bond. On the remaining charges, on counts 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, they're each going to be a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial services. Your total bond is going to be $7,000, out of which you would have to obtain a surety, out of which $2,000 is a surety, which means that you have to go through a bonding company, and they charge between 10 to 15% of $2,000. And the remainder of the $5,000, that's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. You'll have to report to pretrial once a month. You are to have no further contact with Antoinette Dukes, Chantella Henson, and Alnisa Rahim. You may return to your home at 2845 Woodburn Court. That's the address, Mr. Sessiano?
Say it one more time, Your Honor, please.
Was it 2845 Woodburn Court?
Yes.
In College Park?
Yes.
Okay. He may return to that property. Today is November 8th. Miss Antoinette Dukes has until midnight, November 9th, to vacate the premises, and then Mr. Dukes may enter that property on November 10th, 2024 at 12:01 a.m. All right, so Ms. Desiano, please let Ms. Antoinette Dukes know that she has till 11:59 p.m. tomorrow, November 9th, 2024, to completely vacate the property, including all her belongings and her children. Mr. Dukes, you are to have no further contact with Antoinette Dukes, as well as the grandchildren that she, or the children that she has. So no more visits to grandpa until this case is resolved or until there's further order of the court. Do you understand, sir? All right. This is going to be a split bond. So your next court date is going to be November 21st. If you do make bond, then you would not need to come back on November 21st, but you need to make sure that your address is current at all times, and we will send you notice of when to come back to court. Yes, Ms. McLeod?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. As part of the pretrial services, Mr. Dukes will be required to complete a one-day anger awareness program, and he's to relinquish possession of all firearms. Any firearms that he currently possesses must be removed from his home. He cannot have any firearms on his person, in his home, or anywhere near him. And that's an unfortunate circumstance of being charged with a domestic violence crime. Thank you.
Your Honor, that concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, Ms. McLeod. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. You're welcome.
Position number 15 forward.
All right, position 15. Let's go to that position.
What is the name of position 15?
Jaceno Ward, W-A-R-D. That
Okay,
is one of our breakout cases.
that's one of our breakouts.
Okay. Mr. Ward, Miss, let me see who is hosting. Is it Miss Lewis? Okay, Miss Lewis, in a few moments, please place Miss Allen, Mr. McLean, and myself in a breakout room, please. In a few moments. This is Jaceno Ward, case number 24CR 7558A, accused of criminal trespass from November 7th, 2024. Mr. Ward, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean.
Your Honor, I have no breakout, so anytime anybody wants to handle my cases is fine.
All right. Thank you, sir. Miss Lewis, if you could place the three of us in.
Yeah, can I give you the history real quick?
Oh, yes, please. Go. I just need how many cycles?
6.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
You saw the other stuff, I guess?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
All right, is Mr. McLean with us? Oops, Miss Lewis, did Mr. McLean?
No, he didn't come out. He coming out now.
All right, thank you. All right, as I was saying, we were addressing the case for State versus Ward with regards to criminal trespass at a Big Brothers Food Mart on November 7th, 2024. Pretrial has informed us that Mr. Ward has 6 arrest cycles, including 1 open state court case and 1 open superior court case. Based on the arguments presented by both the prosecutor and defense counsel, Mr. Ward's current bond is going to be $2,500. That's going to be a surety bond. He is to stay 500 yards away from 878 Norman Road in Atlanta, Georgia, which is the Big Brother Food Mart. And his next court date is going to be November 21st. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons, and he needs to be compliant with all MH treatment and medication. Thank you. Next case, please.
Number 2, Clark.
This is State versus D'Angelo Bernard Clark, accused of simple battery family violence from October 8th, 2024. Mr. Clark, your accusation number is 24CR007545Y. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean?
Mr. Cook, I believe.
Cook?
Yes.
I'm just going by whoever unmutes. So,
I'm sorry.
so Mr. Howard, how many prize?
37. We got an open case out of Wheeler County, eluding police. Open case out of Clayton, death by receiving. I got 2015 ag assault, ag battery, ag stalking conviction. 2014 criminal attempt to commit burglary. Possession of a.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. Desiano?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident took place on October 8th. The victim is Akira Cook. She's the defendant's children's mother. She was at the location. She said that there was a verbal dispute that turned physical. She wanted to leave and wanted the defendant to give them a ride home with her child. He didn't want her to leave. Defendant pushed her outside of the residence. She then came back in the residence and he punched her in the face in front of their 1-year-old child, initials DC. The victim had no visible injuries, Your Honor. We have been in touch with her today. She states that they do not live together. They're not in a relationship. They share a child. She confirmed the events in the warrant. She states this is not the first time the defendant's been violent towards her, but it is the first time that she's called the police. She states the defendant believes he can treat her the way he does because he's older than her. She just wants him to take care of their child. She wants no contact. And Your Honor, I believe she's on the Zoom. We're asking for a $1,500 surety bond, no contact, family violence intervention, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. It's my understanding the incident location is the defendant's residence, so we're not requesting a stay away. If Your Honor can sound for Ms. Cook, thank you.
Miss Akira Cook, if you're on Zoom, you would need to unmute and start your video. All right, Mr. Cook, anything? Well, not Akira Cook, but Mr. Keith Cook.
Yes.
Any comments?
Your Honor, the alleged victim came to his location. My client's position is that she's been more or less stalking him. He wants to stay away from him, and he denies the specific allegations in the warrant. This is his place of residence. He wants nothing to do with her, so he has no problem with a stay away and no further contact if she will stay away from him. We would therefore ask for a signature bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate, and no program FBIP of any kind. She came to him and continues to come to him, and that's his position.
All right. Akira Cook, this is your last opportunity if you want to be heard in this case. All right. On the simple battery family violence, the bond is set at $2,500. It is a surety bond. No further contact with Akira Cook. and the minor, I think you said the name initials were DC. Mr. Clark, you may return to your home, but Miss Akira Cook, and if she attempts to come to your property, you just make sure the door is shut and that she's not allowed in because you are the one who is required to stay away. I cannot impose any stay away on her. So if she comes to your home, make sure your windows are shut and your door is locked. And you are not to communicate with her in any way, form, or manner, including phone, computers, and any kind of computer devices. Your next court date is going to be November 21st. Thank you.
Condition number 5.
This is State versus James Gibson, accused of battery, family violence from November 6, 2024. Mr. Gibson, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, please?
I got first.
Okay. Mr.
Your Honor, one brief correction. My sincerest apologies. When I was speaking on Mr. Duke's case regarding the jail calls between the defendant and the victim, where the defendant is asking the victim to tell the judge it's a misunderstanding, and the victim is saying, I will, but just to save your A. That was actually this case, Your Honor. I was reading the wrong line. My apologies for any confusion, and I totally take responsibility for that.
That's fine. It doesn't change my ruling on the bond, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
This incident took place on November 6th, Your Honor. The incident date that's in the warrant, the victim says, is actually incorrect. The incident date on the warrant is a previous address that is listed on her license that perhaps the officer, when transcribing the report, just copied what was on the license. But the actual incident location is 809 Park Ridge Lane, apartment F in Roswell. The victim is Anna Pratt, the defendant's girlfriend. They lived together. She reported a dispute that turned physical when the defendant grabbed her wrists and held her down. The victim reported to officers that she was held down for approximately 45 minutes against her will. She tells us today that's not quite exactly how it happened and that he didn't prevent her from leaving in a way in like a false imprisonment manner. But she did tell the police that he pulled her hair as well. The victim had a visible abrasions on her wrists and forearms. We've been in touch with her today. She states that they live together. The incident location is incorrect. As I stated, they don't have children. She confirmed the events in the warrant. She states this is the first time anything like this has happened. The warrant states that the defendant struck her in the head. She denies that happening. She said she's not in fear and would like to continue contact, and she would like the defendant to return to the residence, Your Honor. It's his first arrest. We're requesting a signature bond through pretrial. And Your Honor, given the jail calls, there's a concern for intimidation. So we're requesting no contact at this point. Anger awareness, stay away, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And if Your Honor can sound for Ms. Pratt, she's on the Zoom.
Miss Anna Pratt, okay.
I'm here.
All right. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Well, you've heard what the prosecutor has just stated. And as maybe you weren't aware that all communications between inmates and folks outside through the phone are not only recorded but screened by the prosecutors. So
Okay.
Given that information, did you have anything to add? Otherwise, we are moving on.
No, I just said that because I was mad at him. This is really a big misunderstanding. I really want him to come home. I didn't want any of this to happen. I asked them not to take him or arrest him, and I want him to come home.
So the allegations that you were held against your will for 45 minutes is incorrect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything else to add, Ms. Tessiano?
Ms. Pratt, who called the police?
James did.
James being the defendant?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And can you clarify, when the warrant states that you were held against your will for 45 minutes and you had abrasions on your wrist that would kind of corroborate that, can you explain from your point of view then what happened and how you got those injuries?
I was having a panic attack and he was making sure I didn't hurt myself.
Okay. And has any violence ever happened between the two of you before?
No, never.
Do you have any concerns for your safety?
No, I just want him to come home.
Okay, nothing further, Your Honor.
Right. Mr. Cook, anything to add?
Your Honor, we would hope the court would take the alleged victim's testimony in mind, and we will be seeking a signature bond. I guess it has to be through pretrial, given the family violence element of it. No further violent contact, and we would object to a stay away or any FVIP. Nothing further. Or anger management.
All
We
right.
would object to that.
On the battery family violence, it's going to be a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial services, which means Mr. Gibson, you may sign for your bond without having to pay for it today, but you will have to report to pretrial services twice a month. You shall have no further violent contact with Anna Pratt. There cannot be any future verbal or physical altercations involving Ms. Pratt. And if there are and the police get involved, you will lose your signature bond. Your next bond will either be a 3,500 cash bond or a surety bond. Within 30 days of being released today from jail, you are to enroll and attend a domestic violence intervention program. This is a 26-week program where you would need to attend each and every class without any breaks at your expense. You are not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and you're not to own or possess any firearms. You will be subject to random screens by pretrial services. Your next court date will be sent to your current address, so please make sure that your address is current with the courts at all times. Thank you.
That's a level 2, Your Honor.
Level 2 with a
Thank you.
DVIP requirement.
ACDC can go ahead.
Francois, is it Francois there today?
Yes, good afternoon, Judge. Hope you're doing well.
You too. Thank you.
This is gonna be number 9, Miss Nagali.
All right. For the individuals who've just appeared from ACDC, my name is Judge Law, and this is going to be a criminal misdemeanor calendar for individuals having their first appearance after being arrested, booked at the jail, and your cases have now been formally accused. Please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. This is Miss Alamis Nagel, 24 CR 7544Y, accused of hit and run, failure of the driver to stop or return to the scene of an accident, and improper and erratic lane change from April 30th, 2024. Ms. Nagel, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Third arrest. Last arrest was 3 days ago. Suspended registration. She went to the city jail for that.
All right.
2016 out of Ohio. Contempt, failure to yield right of way to stop sign conviction.
All right.
That's it.
Ms. Desiano?
And Your Honor, it's our understanding that in addition to the driving on canceled registration, that the defendant's license is also suspended as of 3 days ago. However, this incident took place back in April. There was an auto accident at the intersection of Donnelly Howell and Harwell. The victim is Brittany White. She told officers that the defendant was attempting to cut in front of her to make a right turn onto Harwell when their vehicles collided. They initially stopped and spoke for a moment, and the defendant told her, the victim, she didn't have insurance, and then got in her car and drove away. The officers were able to locate her information through her tag number and the make and model of her vehicle. The victim also identified the defendant through a photo lineup. And at some point, the victim had tried to file an insurance claim and was trying to do this amicably. And when the insurance company contacted the defendant, she denied ever being in the vehicle or being in an accident at all. We're requesting a $1,000 surety on the hit and run, Your Honor. SOB on the second count is fine. No driving without a valid license, registration, or insurance. No weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And if Your Honor can sound for Miss Brittany White, thank you.
All right. Miss Brittany White. All right. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, my client denies the allegations as stated in the warrant. She did leave. Her son was sick, and so she hurried away he was sick with a breathing problem. He eventually wound up in the hospital. He's okay now. We would ask for a signature bond on all charges. Nothing further.
All right. And is her current address still in Austell?
Yes, Your Honor. 906 Concept 21 Circle, Austell 30168.
And is there an apartment number?
None that I have.
Miss Nagel will need your correct address.
That's the correct address. There's no apartment number.
What?
That's the correct address. There's no apartment number, 906.
Okay.
21 Circle.
All right. On the hit and run, that's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services. The improper erratic lane change is $500. Her total bond is $2,500 signature bond through pretrial services level 1. No driving at all unless you have a valid driver's license, which is in your case currently suspended. You got to have adequate insurance. So before you operate a vehicle, you must have minimum insurance on the vehicle, and your registration must be current and valid for the particular vehicle being driven. So if none of these elements are available, you're not allowed to operate a motor vehicle. Your next court date will be sent to your concept address in Austell. If you change your address, you must report that to the clerk's office in writing. Thank you.
Number 11, Selby.
Deva Selby is accused of battery family violence from November 6, 2024, case number 24CR7549C. Ms. Selby, you have a right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
13. 2019 out of New Jersey. It says contempt violate domestic. 2019, 2018, 2014 local ordinance violation conviction. 2013 trespass conviction.
All right.
That's it.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. I did just send an email with the information that I filed down a second battery charge, the information about the juvenile that was injured by the defendant. Their name was missing from the documents that we received, so I reached out. I just got that information and confirmed it. So there are 2 battery charges that have been filed as it relates to this case. This is an incident that occurred on the 6th at about 11:20 p.m. Police went to 3041 Landrum Drive Southwest. They met with the partner of this defendant. Her name is Kalia Gibson. Mrs. Gibson had called 911. She reported that she lives there at the location with her 3 children and the defendant. They've been in a relationship for almost 10 years and have lived together for 2 or more years. Mrs. Gibson reported that the defendant had left earlier that day and gone to the store. She came home around 10 p.m. and was intoxicated, and she went home up to the bedroom and lay down. She then became upset because she assumed that Mrs. Gibson was talking about her on the phone. Mrs. Selby got out of her bed and confronted Mrs. Gibson, violently assaulted her. She was seen to have scratches on her chest. And when the 16-year-old daughter of Mrs. Gibson, her name is Michaela Tidwell, intervened, the defendant in front of you bit her. She had marks on her fingers as a result of that. The defendant had thrown things around the bedroom and become angry as a result of of this incident. She was arrested. I would say that Miss Gibson was also arrested, but that charge has been NOD'd, Your Honor. We'd ask for a $2,000 surety bond, no contact with either Mrs. Kalia Gibson or her daughter, the juvenile Michaela Tidwell. Stay away from the location there at 3041 Landrum Drive Southwest, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
All right, thank you. Ms. Champion, have you received the second charge from the state's office? It hasn't been at Baden or Odyssey.
No, ma'am, I have to check with the clerk's office to see if they received it being filed down.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McLean, looks like Miss Selby might be looking at 2 counts of battery, family violence. Shall I address the bond for 2 counts just in case it restrains her at the jail if she wants to book out?
Yes, Your Honor, I think that would be more efficient.
Okay, and what's your response to Miss Allen's statement?
Although she's from New Jersey, she's fairly local, been here in Georgia several years. She works, I was interviewing her while driving, and so I didn't write down the name of the place she works, but I got the impression from talking to her about employment that she's a regular working person who keeps a job and is a productive member of society. Beyond high school, she's had substantial technical training. She is certainly an educated person. I wouldn't see any problem with her making court and being on time. The prior problems with the law, I think, have enough age on them where I would ask the court to consider a signature bond if possible. If it's not possible, then something like a 1,000 surety.
Okay. Is there a Kalia Gibson on Zoom? All right. On each count of battery, family violence, sorry?
No, I'm sorry, Judge. I didn't mean to interrupt. She was also on the calendar as well, but she had got NOD.
Okay, understood. Thank you. On each count of battery, family violence, it's going to be 2,000. It's going to be a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. No further contact with Kalia Gibson and no further contact with the minor MT. She is to stay away from 3041 Landrum Drive. I think it was apartment C. Was that correct?
Yeah, 15, it looks like.
Is it 15? Yeah. So she cannot return to the same home that she shares with Miss Gibson. She may return to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve her personal belongings. That visit cannot exceed 1 hour. After that, she would need to update the court with her new mailing address within 30 days of being released. She is to not consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not own or possess any firearms. Within 30 days of being released as well, she is to enroll and complete a domestic violence intervention program, which is a 26-week battery domestic violence counseling program, and she's to pay for those classes out of her own pocket. She must show proof of enrollment and attendance with her pretrial officer. Thank you.
Yeah, it's through pretrial, correct?
Right, level 1.
Thank you.
Position sake.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Francois. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. You do the same.
All right. I'm sorry, that was position 6?
Correct.
All right. We have Kendrick Lamar Goodman Jr. And Mr. Goodman has 5 misdemeanor charges stemming from a traffic incident, fleeing and attempting to elude an officer, reckless driving, willful obstruction of an officer, driving on the wrong side of the road, and an HOV lane violation. Case number 24 CR 75538. Mr. Goodman, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Mr. Cook.
Oh, Mr. Cook. All right.
All right.
All right.
Third arrest. Got an open case in Superior Court, 24 PI 001 031. Unlawful person to participate in criminal street gang. What else? On probation for hit and run, possession of a schedule 1 or 2. That's 24 SC 003 416.
24 SC, I'm sorry.
003 416.
All right, this is a 24 SC case?
He on probation for the 24 SC and got an open 24 PI.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Ms. Desiano?
Your Honor, this incident took place yesterday. There was an officer that was patrolling traffic 75 northbound around University Avenue. Noticed the defendant was driving in the HOV lane by himself. The officer tried to initiate a traffic stop. The vehicle then fled at a high rate of speed, started a pursuit. The defendant then committed several traffic offenses, running stop signs, speeding through a construction zone, driving down the wrong way on a one-way street. The defendant eventually abandoned the vehicle and fled on foot. And when the officer did catch up with him, he resisted arrest. Your Honor, we are requesting a $1,000 surety on each, the fleeing and the reckless and the obstruction, and a $500 surety on the remaining counts. Defensive driving, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol, or no driving at this point with his priors, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, we would object to the no driving unless the license is suspended. Beyond that, my client is not employed at the moment, and so we would be asking for the lowest bond possible given his financial circumstances. And beyond that, we would leave it in the discretion of the court.
All right, thank you. So in the other traffic-related matter to which he's on probation, the incident date was February 10th, 2024, and he took a plea on September 27th, 2024. And now here we are for a new incident on November 7th, 2024. Based on the allegations set forth, the driving, fleeing, and attempting to elude is a $2,000 surety. The reckless driving is a $2,000 surety. And the remaining charges 3, 4, and 5 are going to be $1,000 each. That's going to be 2, 4, $7,000 surety. No driving unless he has a valid driver's license, adequate insurance, and proper registration. And his next court date is November 21st. Thank you.
Next is position number 7.
7. State versus Matrail Jones, 24 CR 7550J. Mr. Jones, you've been accused of 3 counts of cruelty to animals from October 30th, 2024. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
This number 7?
Yes.
Okay, I got first arrest.
All right, thank
Jail
you.
was the recommendation, but it'd probably be lower one, I'm sure.
All right.
If you give him siege bond, I'm just saying.
All right. Mr. Desiano?
Your Honor, there's actually 2 incident dates. This is 2 incidents. One took place on October 6th and one took place on October 30th. The incident that took place on the 6th, the incident location is his residence, 741 Morosco Drive, apartment 1669. This is obviously an apartment complex. There were other tenants at the location who heard the sounds of a dog yelping and crying and went to their balconies to see the defendant repeatedly beating a German Shepherd with a belt while the dog was pinned up against the wall and crying. The tenants tried to intervene and yelled for the defendant to stop hitting the dog. He yelled back, "Shut the F up, or he will come over there and beat them up too." The second incident took place on October 30th. There's 2 dogs in this incident, the German Shepherd from the first incident and a black and white mixed dog. Neighbors reported seeing the defendant on the balcony with the black and white dog and the German Shepherd. He kicks the black dog in the face while it screamed in pain, and then he dumped water on that dog. Both of the dogs then go inside. A few moments later, neighbors say they hear loud banging that sounded like metal hitting something, and after every noise, you hear a dog yelping and screaming in pain. The dogs then run out on the balcony, cowering in fear and shaking. That incident was caught on video, Your Honor. Judge, we're requesting a $2,000 surety on each count. I assume that animal control has taken control of these animals at this point. However, to the extent they have not, he must immediately surrender them to animal control and absolutely no contact with the dogs. We're asking that he enroll in the bark animal cruelty course, and we're asking that he not be allowed to possess or own any animals while on bond, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol.
Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. My client's position is that these were rescue animals. When he took them in, they were fairly violent and they were occasionally biting him. He was engaging in perfectly reasonable discipline. He denies the actual specific allegations as stated in the warrant. And we would be asking for a signature bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate.
All right. On count 1, that's going to be a $1,000 cash bond only. On count 2 and 3, that's going to be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services. So that's a total of a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 3. So total would be $11,000 split bond. Next court date is November 21st. Mr. Jones, once you make bond and are released, you are to report to pretrial services once a week. You are not allowed to own any non-human being. So no more pets, no more animals. Any and all pets have to be surrendered to the Fulton County Animal Control Services. You are prohibited from having any pets, and I'm going to require you to report to pretrial once a week. If you get arrested again for anything else, or if you're in violation of this bond order, your remainder bond will be revoked. Thank you.
Your Honor, that was a 10,000 signature bond at what level?
Level 3.
Level 3, and then there was a 1,000 cash bond.
Yes, on count 1.
Thank you.
Position number 10.
Christopher Polk is accused of battery from May 13th, 2023, and the case is accused under 24 CR 7556G. Mr. Polk, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
7. Last arrest was on the 1st of this month for simple battery out of DeKalb. 2018 FTA, 2014 probation.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from May of 2023. Police were called at about 3 a.m. to a location on Moreland Avenue where they met with Mrs. Rachel Eulia. Yeah, it's spelled Eulalia. She and the defendant have never lived together, but were dating in a period of time. She reported that evening that a few hours earlier, the defendant had struck her in the face while holding a bottle. They'd been sitting on the porch, and he became angry, talking about things in his past. He was holding a bottle, and the next thing she knew, the back of his fist, as he held it, hit her in the eye. She was bleeding profusely, had a laceration under her eye, and a visibly bruised and blackened eye. She did say she thought initially that it might have been an accident, but was very shaken up and had gone to the hospital to get treatment and ultimately decided to make a police report. She changed her position. She reported that the defendant tried to act like it had been an accident, that he'd struck her in the face so hard. And then she, I believe, provided police with photographs of her injuries after the fact. An investigator followed up with her from the domestic violence unit in June of last year, and that's when warrants were obtained. We have spoken with the victim this morning. Her name is Rachel. I believe she's on the Zoom. She reports that she and the defendant continue to be in a relationship, but share no children, that the residence where this occurred is her house, so there's no stay away requirement there. She did confirm the events in the warrants. She said that the defendant has never been violent with her before and that they've been together since and everything is fine. Didn't get a chance to inquire about whether she's the victim in the 11-124 battery out of DeKalb. But if you would sound for her, maybe she can answer that question. Based on the recent arrest, we would be asking for a $2,000 surety. No violent contact. There are no children between the two of these individuals and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McLean, anything to add?
Your Honor, are we going to hear from the Miss
Oh, I'm
Rachel?
sorry. Yes, Miss Rachel Yulia. If you'd like to unmute, right, please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge.
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
Your Honor.
And yes, ma'am. Are you involved in the DeKalb County case?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Are you the alleged victim in that case as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And is there a no contact situation going on between you and from the bond?
No, not that I'm aware of from that bond, but I would like to maintain contact. I don't feel
That
like
would change the state's position, Your Honor, at this point. Honestly, we would be requesting no contact in light of that information.
Anything else to add, Miss Yulia?
I don't fear for my life. I don't think there's any intimidation, and I would like for him to go home. So, and if
Could you
possible,
explain, could you give me an idea of why? I mean, I'm concerned that this is now a second violent case involving the two of you.
we've gone through our own separate counseling and therapy. There have been no problems. We're both putting in the best effort to communicate efficiently. There have been a lot of great improvements in the relationship, and going forward, we have had no issues.
Today is November 8th.
Yes.
This just happened on November 1st, didn't it?
The arrest warrant, but this happened back in May 2023.
No, I meant the DeKalb County case.
That one was in 2023 as well.
Oh, I see. Okay, understood. Thank you. Mr. McLean, anything to add?
Let me make sure I'm not muted. Yes, Your Honor, it would be primarily the 2023 timeframe that I would emphasize in asking the court for a signature bond. Hope they have gone through some counseling and have improved things. I noted that prior to these matters, in looking at the PSA, the public safety assessment, the question about prior violent convictions had 0. Your Honor, my client is a veteran. He is 35 years old. He has graduated not only from high school, but also has a bachelor's in culinary arts. And I found that curious. He went to Cordon Bleu. And so usually I'm used to hearing a smaller degree. But he is a chef at the Kimball House. He has done lawn care with his family business before that. And like I said, he's a veteran. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond if it's possible, because there are 2 open cases. If it's not possible, then we would ask the court to consider the smallest surety bond it could. Did I say surety before I meant signature?
For a minute, I thought my ears were.
Okay. I think my ear caught up with my mouth. I think.
Anything else to add, Miss Allen? It looks like the DeKalb County incident was also from last year.
Mrs. Rachel, how do I say your last name?
It's Parks, Rachel Parks.
Rachel Parks.
Did you file for a protective order in 2023?
I was getting ready to, but it was more so out of just being upset. I didn't fear my life, or there was no intimidation or anything.
Okay. And where do you currently live?
Currently, I stay at 2037 Weems Road, Tucker, Georgia 30084.
And you're also known as Rachel Parks?
Yes, my middle name is Eulalia.
Okay.
And Parks is my last name.
And do you and the defendant live together currently?
No, we do not live together.
So when you filed a petition for a protective order in DeKalb County, were you in fear of your safety at that point as well?
No, I was not.
What was the reason for filing for it?
Just the arguments and such, and just doing it out of fear, feelings and emotions, not anything because I was intimidated at all.
Right. So you obtained an ex parte order for protection in July of last year against this young man because you just didn't want to have arguments anymore?
That and I went ahead and dismissed it as well. If that's in the records as well.
Okay. But that case in DeKalb County is still currently open?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay. And you share no children?
No children.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I have, Your Honor.
All right. It's the state's position. Okay. On the battery charge, that's going to be a 4,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. No further violent contact with Rachel, middle initial U, last name Parks. And within 15 days of being released, Mr. Polk, you will obtain what we call a BH evaluation. And if there are any requirements that you comply with treatment or counseling, you'll be required to do so. You will report to pretrial twice a month. You're not to consume, well, I don't know how you're going to stop this, but you're not to consume any alcohol. So if you use alcohol in your cuisine, you might want to have somebody else taste the food because you're not allowed to consume any. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, and you're not allowed to own or possess any firearms. You may be subject to random screens by pretrial, and you'll need to show proof that you have obtained a BH evaluation, a behavioral health evaluation, and submit yourself to any treatment. So pretrial will need a report from the evaluator. Understood? All right. Your next court date will be mailed to you at your current address. If you change your address, you would need to make sure that the court clerk's office are the first folks to find out. And if there are any future arrests for anything, this 4,500 signature bond will be revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. Best of luck. Thank you.
Her judge, April.
Number 12.
James Shropshire is accused of simple battery, family violence, and theft by taking from a September 20th, 2024 incident under case 24 CR 7547B. Mr. Shropshire, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
What we got? No, first.
All right.
That's what I got.
Miss Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that occurred in September on the 20th of this year, so 9/20/24, right after midnight. Police were called to 960 Constitution Road. The victim, L'Oreal Hardiman, she's here on the Zoom, reported that the defendant came to her home. He was bringing home their child, dropping their daughter off. He became upset when Mrs. Hardiman was on the phone while he was dropping the child off. And thought she was talking to another man. He then demanded the money that he'd given her previously that week, I'm assuming to help care for the child that they share or children. When she told him she didn't have the money, the $40 that he was now demanding back from her because she wasn't giving him his attention, he went to the child's piggy bank that they share and took $40. When Mrs. Hardiman tried to prevent him from leaving, he shoved her to the ground and ripped her shirt, and she had a laceration on her pinky finger. This was seen by police when they responded. A DV investigator was assigned, and the body-worn camera was reviewed, and the victim was spoken to. She reported at that time, before warrants were issued in October, that the defendant had not apologized and had not returned her money. We have been in touch with Mrs. Hardiman today. She reports that they're not in a relationship and do not live together, but share a child. I'm not sure about the status of that child, if it's been legitimated or if there's a child support order in place, or if they were just trying to make things work between the two of them when the fight about $40 happened. She reported nothing like this had ever happened before. And that they've been in contact since. She wants to continue contact. Your Honor, we would ask for no violent contact. We would ask for an SOB through pretrial, and we would request third-party transfer until Mr. Shropshire files a legitimation. And we'd ask for anger management, Your Honor. Thank you. And if you'd call for Ms. Hardiman, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Miss L'Oreal Hardiman?
Yes.
All right, you'll need to start your video, please, if you want to address the court. All right, could you raise your device in front of you, please? All right, could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Please do not walk because we are recording this proceeding. Do not walk. Thank you. All right, what would you like to tell us? You can put your hand up.
I had told him that I didn't want to press charges or anything.
Well, unfortunately, since it's domestic violence, that decision's out of your hands. Could you tell us about the child support or the theft by taking offense?
You talking about the money?
Well, I heard that some piggy bank was damaged.
Yeah, he had I had told him that he had gave me $4 to borrow, but I had told him when he came there that day, I had told him that I was gonna give it to him on card, but he got mad and still took the money out of the piggy bank after I had told him that it was for me and my baby son to eat.
Okay. And is there a current order that requires him to pay you child support?
No.
All right. Have you applied for child support with the appropriate Office of Child Support Services?
No.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ms. Hardiman. You may mute your screen. Mr. McLean, anything to add?
Really not, Your Honor. The state's position is reasonable. Anger management, awareness, whatever is appropriate.
All right. On the simple battery, family violence is going to be 1,500. On the theft by taking, that's going to be 1,500. This is a 3,000 signature bond through pretrial services, and this is going to be a level 1. Within 30 days of being released from jail, Mr. Shropshire shall enroll in a domestic violence intervention program, and he must show proof of enrollment and attendance with regards to this program with his pretrial officer. No violent contact with L'Oreal Hardiman. He may have, since he's having no violent contact, he may continue to have contact with the minor child as well. And Mr. Shropshire, within 30 days of being released from jail, in addition to showing proof of enrollment with the domestic violence program and attendance of those classes, you are also to file a legitimation action with the appropriate superior court in order to establish joint visitation custody as well as child support. If Mr. Shropshire does not file a legitimation action, then Ms. Hardiman, I highly recommend that you apply for a child support case with the appropriate child support services office. If there is any future issue with a contribution for the care of the child, it is best if you have it done through a child support order rather than trying to do it between the two of you to avoid any problems. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. Thank you.
Add-on number 1, Mr. Taylor.
What is the name? I'm sorry.
It's an add-on.
Well,
Yeah, Jeremiah Taylor.
I don't have an add-on on my calendar.
I had that indicated that was transferred to the DA's office. Oh, we didn't get that information. Okay. That's why he's not on the counter.
Okay.
For future reference, can somebody let us know then? Thank you.
I send all my transfers to jail active records. Do I need to send it to someone else?
Yeah, probably one of the officers in the courtroom.
All right, if Miss Allen, if you get the email address to whom it needs to be sent in the chat, then we'll do that. But I'm sorry, sir, your case is not a misdemeanor. It is a felony case and has to be addressed at felony first appearance, not this court. Thank you.
Oh, which count became the felony? The battery?
One second. This is Jeremiah Taylor.
Yes.
Yes, he's got a prior family violence battery conviction.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Next case, please.
Position 1, I think this is gonna be a breakout session.
This is State versus Aidan Brennan, accused of simple assault, family violence, and criminal trespass from November 7th of this year under Accusation 24 CR 7552G. Mr. Brennan, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. And how many priors does Mr. Brennan have?
This is second. He got an open battery DV trespass. That's a $5,000 pretrial bond.
Okay.
You want the case number?
Yes, no, I've got it. 446G.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is we felt it would be appropriate to ask for a break-in.
All right. Let me see. I think we can, is this our last case?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And there's no
We
one.
have one more case that's a
I'm sorry,
waiver.
we have-
We have a waiver.
Waivers. We have
Okay.
2 of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that case, Ms. Lewis, we can pause the live stream. Is there anyone else who is, okay, who is Victoria?